Hello and happy new year to all of you, and welcome to this edition of From the Stretch. It is Monday. Yes, Monday, the 6th of January. This is episode number 17, and I am your host, Jason DeCanio, ready to go with the first show of 2025. And I hope you had a fantastic Christmas and a safe New Year's as well. And we were gone for a while, but we're back, and that's the story of it. That's right. Yep. Why can't I edit this? What's going on here? We're still learning EV Mux here, friends. We are still learning EV Mux in all of its newness and wonderment. But the main thing is that the meeting with all of our tier masters from last week went really well. Oh, there it is. Okay, now we've got it. So we're going to put this up here with the ticker. There it is, From the Stretch. Today is, of course, January 6th, 2025. Yes, I can honestly say that for the first time this year. All right, we're going to be looking at some interesting events that happened on this date. Going back to the first one, oh boy, 1066. Yeah, 1066, folks. This is an interesting one where Harold II was crowned King of England following the death of Edward the Confessor. His coronation marked a pivotal moment in English history, but Harold's reign would be short-lived, and the events that followed his ascent to the throne would soon plunge England into one of its most important, significant, and turbulent battles that they've dealt with. So that happened in 1066. And then we will move on to 1838, where Samuel Morse's telegraph, the revolutionary moment in communication. Samuel Morse, Morse code, demonstrated his telegraph for the first time, marking a groundbreaking moment in the history of communication. The telegraph, a device that allowed messages to be sent over long distances using electrical signals, would revolutionize the way people communicated, shaping the future of global interaction. And finally, we'll go to 1941, where Franklin Delano Roosevelt's For Freedom speech had a vision for a better world. Yep, President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered his historic For Freedoms speech during his State of the Union address. The speech, delivered at a time when the world was engulfed in World War II, outlined the fundamental freedoms that, according to Roosevelt, should be universally accessible to all people. So let us go ahead and jump now to our first event, Harold II's coronation, a short-lived reign that set the stage for the Battle of Hastings. Yes, Harold II, the son of Earl Godwin of Wessex, was a powerful noble in England, known for his military prowess and political influence. Upon the death of Edward the Confessor on January 5th of 1066, Harold was quickly crowned king, and Edward had died without an heir, leaving the English throne open to competition. And although Edward had no direct successor, it was widely believed that Harold had been promised the throne by Edward on his deathbed. Additionally, Harold's claim was supported by the English nobles, who saw him as the most viable candidate to maintain stability in England. However, Harold's claim was contested by other powerful figures, notably William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, also claimed that Edward had promised him the throne during a visit to England years earlier. And this rivalry over the throne set the stage for a year of intense conflict. Harold's coronation, therefore, marked the beginning of a struggle for power that would culminate in the pivotal Battle of Hastings later that same year. Harold's reign as king was filled with immediate challenges, both internal and external. And after being crowned, Harold had to quickly consolidate his power and deal with immediate threats. One of the most pressing dangers came from the north, where Harold Hardrada, the king of Norway, laid claim to the English throne. Hardrada, with the support of Tostig Gudwinson, Harold's estranged brother, launched an invasion in the north of England. Harold II's military prowess was put to the test when he swiftly marched his forces north and defeated the Norwegians at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25th of 1066. However, this victory came at a great cost, as many of Harold's troops were exhausted and battle-weary. As he dealt with the Norwegian threat, Harold received news that William of Normandy was preparing to invade England from the south, claiming his right to the throne. Harold's forces, though weakened, marched south to face this new challenge, setting the stage for the Battle of Hastings. And on October 14th of 1066, Harold II and his army faced William the Conqueror's invading forces at the Battle of Hastings. The battle was a decisive turning point in English history, and despite his previous victory over Hardrada, Harold's army was not in the best condition to confront William's well-organized forces. The battle ended in a crushing defeat for Harold, who was killed during the fighting, marking the end of his reign. William's victory at Hastings made him the first Norman king of England, and his subsequent coronation marked the beginning of a new era in English history. The Battle of Hastings and the Norman conquest fundamentally altered the social, political, and cultural landscape of England. With William's victory, the Anglo-Saxon elite was displaced by Norman rulers, leading to significant changes in land ownership, law, and governance. And the Norman conquest also had lasting effects on the English language, as French became the language of the ruling class, influencing the development of the English language over the centuries. Harold II's brief reign, beginning with his coronation on January 6th of 1066, set in motion a series of events that would dramatically alter the future of England. His death at the Battle of Hastings marked the end of Anglo-Saxon rule and the beginning of Norman dominance. The Norman conquest left a lasting imprint on English culture, language, and governance, shaping the nation for centuries to come. And while Harold's reign was short, it was a pivotal moment in history that led to one of the most significant transitions in England's history. Next up, Samuel Morse's telegraph, a revolutionary moment in communication. Yep, the telegraph, a device that allowed the messages to be sent over long distances using electrical signals, would revolutionize the way people communicated, shaping the future of global interaction. Morse's invention set the stage for a new era of connectivity, influencing not only the development of communication technologies, but also the structure of modern society. Samuel Morse, an artist by training, he became fascinated with the idea of long-distance communication after hearing about the electromagnetic experiments of scientists like Michael Faraday and Hans Christian Ørsted. In the early 1830s, Morse began to develop the concept of using electrical signals to transmit messages over a wire. The key breakthrough came when he, alongside his collaborators, created a system of dots and dashes to represent letters and numbers, what would become the Morse code. Morse's invention faced early challenges, including skepticism from the public and difficulties in securing funding. However, his perseverance paid off, and by 1837, he had built a working model of the telegraph. On January 6th of 1838, Morse and his assistant, Alfred Vail, conducted the first successful demonstration of the telegraph at the Speedwell Iron Works in Morristown, New Jersey. And during the demonstration, Morse sent a simple message: a patient waiter is no loser. This marked the first successful use of electrical telegraphy to transmit information over a distance. The telegraph revolutionized communication by overcoming the limitations of traditional methods, such as messengers on horseback or written letters. And prior to the telegraph, messages could take days, weeks, or even months to travel over long distances. With the invention of the telegraph, messages could be sent almost instantaneously over vast distances, fundamentally changing the way people and businesses communicated. The telegraph's impact on society was far reaching. It enabled faster communication across countries and continents, making it possible for governments, businesses, and individuals to stay informed in ways that had previously been unimaginable. The telegraph played a crucial role in the development of the news industry, with newspapers relying on telegraphy to quickly receive updates from reporters in distant locations. It also had a profound impact on global trade and diplomacy, enabling more efficient coordination between countries and regions. Samuel Morse's invention of the telegraph paved the way for a range of other innovations in communication technology. The telegraph was the precursor to late inventions like the telephone and the internet, all of which relied on the ability to transmit information quickly and efficiently over long distances. In fact, Morse's work laid the groundwork for the global communications infrastructure we rely on today. In addition to its technical legacy, the telegraph also had a lasting cultural impact. The advent of instant communication helped shrink the world, making it feel smaller and more interconnected. People could now exchange information in real time, fostering greater global awareness and collaboration, while modern communication technologies have advanced far beyond the telegraph, and the fundamental concept of connecting people across vast distances remains as relevant today as it was in 1838. Samuel Morse's demonstration of the telegraph on January 6th of 1838 marked a transformative moment in human history, revolutionizing long-distance communication and forever altering the way people connected with one another. The telegraph's impact reached far beyond its initial demonstration, changing the course of business, government, and culture. And today, Morse's legacy lives on through the continued advancements in communication technologies that have shaped the modern world, underscoring the enduring importance of innovation in connecting people across time and space. Now to 1941, where President Roosevelt gives the Four Freedoms speech, a vision for a better world. Picture it, the State of the Union address, 1941, the Four Freedoms speech, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when they were engulfed in World War II, outlined the fundamental freedoms that, according to Roosevelt, should be universally accessible to all people. His vision for a world founded on freedom, democracy, and human dignity became one of the defining moments of his presidency and shaped American foreign policy for years to come. In his speech, Roosevelt presented the four freedoms as essential human rights that should be enjoyed by everyone, everywhere in the world. These freedoms were the freedom of speech, the right to express oneself openly without fear of government retaliation, the freedom of worship, the right to practice one's religion freely and without persecution, freedom from want, the right to an adequate standard of living, including access to food, shelter, and security, and freedom from fear, the right to live without the threat of war or violence and to feel safe from oppression. Roosevelt argued that these freedoms were not only the foundation of American democracy, but also essential to the global structure against fascism and tyranny. He made the case that securing these freedoms was necessary to build a lasting peace, and that the United States had a moral obligation to champion these values worldwide. Roosevelt's Four Freedoms speech came at a critical juncture in world history. While the United States had not yet entered World War II, the conflict was already raging in Europe and Asia. Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, had expanded its control over much of Europe, while Imperial Japan was making aggressive moves in Asia. In the United States, isolationist sentiment was still strong, with many Americans wanting to avoid direct involvement in the conflict. However, Roosevelt believed that the United States could not stand by while dictatorship spread and threatened global stability. And by framing the war As a fight to defend the four freedoms, Roosevelt sought to rally public support for increased aid to Allied nations and eventually for American entry into the war. The speech highlighted the moral and ethical imperatives behind the U.S. involvement rather than focusing solely on strategic or military concerns. The Four Freedoms speech had a lasting impact not only on U.S. foreign policy, but also on the global order. Roosevelt's vision helped lay the groundwork for the post-war world, including the creation of international institutions like the United Nations, which was founded on the principles of peace, human rights, and international cooperation. The Four Freedoms became a rallying cry for democratic nations and influenced the Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the United Nations in 1948. And at home, the speech reinforced Roosevelt's commitment to social and economic reforms. He argued that securing freedom from want was just as important as securing freedom of speech or worship, calling for policies that would address poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The speech also inspired movements for civil rights and social justice in the decades that followed, as Americans worked toward making Roosevelt's vision a reality for all citizens. Franklin Delano Roosevelt's Four Freedoms speech on this date, 1941, remains one of the most important addresses in American history. It articulated a vision of a world where basic human rights were universally guaranteed and where freedom, democracy, and security were accessible to all. The ideals Roosevelt outlined continue to resonate today, serving as a foundation for global human rights advocacy and as a reminder of the enduring struggle to secure and protect these freedoms for people everywhere. And there you have it, folks. The events of January 6th, 1941, 1838, and 1066. We look at three events today on this episode 17. Tomorrow, we look at more events on episode 18. I'm Jason DeCanio for From the Stretch. And remember, stretch your mind, stretch your ideas, broaden your knowledge of everything, and keep on reading. We'll see you tomorrow for more events. Till then, good night.